Hey guys, tonight we are stepping behind the marble columns and velvet curtains to explore one of ancient Rome's most private and misunderstood domains. But forget the decadent, wine-soaked orgies and scandalous tales of emperors you've seen in the movies. We're going to be looking at the deeply boring and incredibly strict social and legal rules that governed every aspect of Roman relationships, desire, and family life. The truth is, you probably wouldn't survive a day as a young Roman trying to navigate this world. Not because of temptation, but because you'd accidentally break a dozen ironclad social laws before breakfast, leading to disgrace, disinheritance, or a very awkward conversation with your all-powerful father. So, before we begin, if you enjoy these quiet explorations of history's unglamorous side, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And as always, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's a quiet pleasure to see our community span the globe. Now, let's step quietly into the Roman household, pour ourselves some watered-down wine, and learn the rules of the game. Congratulations! You have just turned 17 in the city of Rome, during the reign of the Emperor Augustus. You are a Roman citizen, the son of a respectable family of the equestrian order, wealthy, but not part of the ancient patrician aristocracy. Your future seems bright, and today your father has summoned you to the atrium of your family's domus for a serious conversation. You are hoping for sage advice on rhetoric, perhaps a discussion about your future in the military, or even some thoughts on poetry and philosophy. Instead, you get a detailed lecture on the legal definition of a legitimate heir and the financial benefits of marrying into a family with good connections in the Spanish olive oil trade. It is deeply romantic. Welcome to the single most important and frankly insane historical fact of Roman social life, the absolute power of the pater familias. As the head of the family, your father holds a legal authority called patria potestas, the power of the father, over his entire household. This doesn't just mean he can tell you what to do, it means he legally owns you and everything you might ever acquire. He owns his wife, he owns his slaves, he owns his other children, and he owns you, his adult son. He has the legal right to decide whom you will marry, what career you will pursue, and, in ancient theory, even to sell you into slavery or have you executed if you bring sufficient dishonor to the family. He probably won't, as it would be terrible for property values and cause a major scandal with the neighbors. But the fact that he could really adds a certain spice to family dinners. To what degree the cold, legal power of the paterfamilias was tempered by genuine affection and familial bonds in the average Roman household is a deeply personal question that the letters of men like Cicero hint at, but the law books completely ignore. What is clear, however, is that your life, especially your love life, is not your own. It is a strategic asset for the family. Your father explains this to you with the detached clarity of a man discussing a business merger. Love, he tells you, is a frivolous emotion. It is for poets and Greeks. It is a pleasant distraction, perhaps, but it has absolutely no place in the serious business of choosing a wife. This is where you learn the crucial, obscure distinction that governs all Roman relationships. The difference between a wife, uxor, and every other woman. A man marries for one reason and one reason only, to produce legitimate children, liberi, who can carry on the family name and inherit its property. This formal union, or matrimonium, can only happen between two Roman citizens. It is a contract, a social and economic alliance between families. Your future wife will be chosen based on her family's wealth, their political connections, and her reputation for modesty and fertility. Whether you find her charming or as interesting as a wet rock is completely irrelevant. Her job is to run your household and produce a male heir. Your job is to provide for her and ensure the child is legally yours. The rules are simple, your father explains. Desire is a private matter, like a head cold. It's understood that it happens. Marriage, however, is a public contract, like building an aqueduct. It must be done correctly, with the right materials, and for the benefit of the entire city. or at least for the benefit of your family's financial statements. Any other relationship you might have with a slave, a foreigner, a prostitute, or a freed woman is of no legal consequence because it cannot produce a citizen heir. These relationships are about pleasure, convenience, or passing the time. Marriage is about legacy. You must never, ever confuse the two. To fall in love with your wife is a happy accident, not a goal. To fall in love with someone you cannot marry is a private tragedy and a potential public disgrace if you let it interfere with your duty. Then he tells you he has already opened negotiations with another family, the family of a man named Marcus Vipsanius, a successful merchant who imports grain from Egypt. He has a daughter, Vipsania. She is 15. She is said to be healthy, modest, and well-educated in household management. Her dowry is substantial. That is all the information you are given. That is all the information you need. You have never met her, you have never seen her, and yet your future is now inexorably tied to hers. You are not being asked for your opinion. You are being informed of a pending business transaction in which you are a key asset. You sit there in the grand atrium, the sounds of the city filtering in from outside, and you realize your entire romantic future has just been laid out for you like a balance sheet. To clear your head after your father's deeply unromantic business proposal, you decide to go to the public baths, the Termae. It's the social hub of Rome, a place to get clean, conduct business, exercise, and discuss politics, all while being surrounded by hundreds of naked, sweaty strangers. It is significantly less relaxing than it sounds. You walk through the city, your mind replaying your father's words. Marriage is a contract. Your wife is for heirs. Love is irrelevant. You are beginning to understand that Roman society is not a single entity, but a series of carefully walled-off compartments. There is the world of duty and family, and then there is the world of desire. Your education today will be about the brutal, invisible walls that separate the two. You arrive at the baths of Agrippa, a massive marble-clad complex gifted to the people of Rome. The place is teeming with life. You move through the various rooms, the palaestreia, an open-air courtyard where men are wrestling and lifting weights, the tepidarium, a warm, steamy room for socializing, and the caldarium, a hot room so thick with steam you can barely see. It is here, in this public space of exposed bodies and casual conversation, that you see the rules your father spoke of in action. You see a prominent senator, a man known for his stern public speeches on morality, being attended by a beautiful young male slave. The nature of their relationship is an open secret, whispered about but never publicly condemned. This is your next lesson, and it is a major, fundamental fact of Roman life. Slaves are property. In Roman law, a slave, or servus, is not a person. They are an object, a res, like a chair or a horse. They have no legal rights, no personal honor, and, crucially, no bodily autonomy. A Roman citizen, as a master, could use his own slaves for any purpose he wished, including the satisfaction of his desires, without any legal or moral consequence. Whether the average Roman man felt any emotional conflict or guilt about the vast gulf between the affection he might feel for a slave and the cold, property-based reality of their legal status is a psychological dimension that is almost entirely absent from the historical record written by masters. What is clear is the rule. As long as the boy or girl is your property, it is perfectly acceptable. If, however, a citizen were to have the same relationship with a freeborn Roman boy, it would be a source of catastrophic scandal, a crime known as stuprum. In Rome, desire isn't a matter of morality in the way you might understand it, it's a matter of legal status and who owns whom. You continue to the frigidarium, the great cold pool, and overhear a group of young men your age, sons of other merchants, boasting. They are not talking about girls they are courting. They are talking about their recent visits to a lupanar, a brothel in the Subura district. This is another compartment of Roman life, an obscure but vital part of the city's social machinery. Brothels in Rome were legal, state-licensed, and taxed institutions.
They were a recognized, if officially disdained, outlet for male desire. Prostitutes, or meretrices, were a registered class. They were often required to wear distinctive clothing, perhaps a brightly colored toga, which was scandalous for a proper Roman woman. And their hair might be dyed blonde or red to mark them as separate from the respectable matrons of the city. They were also branded with infamy, a legal status that meant they had no social standing and could not, for instance, bring a case to court or marry a citizen. This was the trade-off. The city acknowledged and even profited from their services, but it stripped them of their honor and legal personhood. For a young, unmarried man like you, visiting a lupanar is seen as a normal, if slightly unrefined, part of life. It is a simple, legal, financial transaction designed to satisfy a biological urge without the messy complications of romance, emotion, or, most importantly, inheritance. It keeps you away from the daughters and wives of other respectable citizens, the one place your desires must never, ever stray. You see it clearly now. The system is a perfect, if brutal, piece of social engineering. Your future wife, Vipsania, the girl you have never met, is a protective vessel for producing legitimate heirs. Her purity is paramount. She is a symbol of your family's honor. The slave in the caldarium is an object, a piece of property for his master's use. The prostitute in the lupanar is a public utility, a release valve for the city's sexual pressures. Each exists in their own separate, legally defined box. As long as you respect these boundaries, as long as you do not bring dishonor upon a citizen woman or another man's wife, you are free to do as you please in the other compartments. You have learned the second great rule of Roman relationships. Your body is free, but only as long as your actions do not threaten the rigid social and property structure of the elite. Love is for poems. Sex is for slaves and prostitutes. Marriage is for heirs and olive oil connections. And you, a respectable young Roman, are expected to navigate these three separate worlds without ever getting them mixed up.
You leave the baths, your mind buzzing with the day's lessons. The steam, noise, and casual nudity of the thermae give way to the bustling, clothed, and hierarchical world of the Roman streets. You see a wealthy matron, a woman of the senatorial class, being carried through the crowd on a litter, her face veiled, attended by a small army of slaves who clear a path before her. She is a vision of untouchable dignity. You think of Vipsania, the 15-year-old girl your father has chosen for you. Her life, you are beginning to realize, is governed by a set of rules even more rigid and confining than your own. This is the other side of the Roman social contract, a major historical fact that underpins the entire system, the ideal of the Roman matrona. While you, as a young man, are expected to live a public life, in the forum, in the baths, in business, a respectable woman of your class is expected to live a life largely confined to the domus, the household. Her power is not public, but domestic. Her virtue is not measured in courage or commerce, but in pudicitia, a powerful concept meaning modesty, chastity, and a quiet, unwavering loyalty to her family. Her entire existence is a performance of respectability, designed to prove one thing above all else, that any child she bears is the legitimate, undisputed heir of her husband. Whether the average Roman woman felt her confinement to the domestic sphere as a frustrating limitation, or if she embraced her role as the powerful and respected manager of the domus as a fulfilling life path, is a perspective that the male-dominated historical sources rarely allow us to fully see. What is clear is that her world was small, but her responsibilities were immense. Your future wife, Vipsania, is likely at home right now, learning the two great skills required of a Roman matron: how to manage a household staff of 50 people with ruthless efficiency, and how to look gracefully occupied while weaving a single piece of cloth for 6 months. This is not an exaggeration. You see, the most potent and obscure symbol of female virtue in Rome is lanifigium, the working of wool. Even the Empress Livia, wife of Augustus himself, made a great public show of spinning her own wool. It was a throwback to a simpler, more rustic Roman past, a symbolic rejection of modern luxury and idleness. A good wife, a true matrona,
was one who supervised the household slaves in their weaving and spent her own time at the loom. An inscription on the tomb of a noblewoman might praise her for many things, but it would almost certainly end with the highest possible compliment. Domum servat, lanum ficit. She kept the house, she made the wool. This was the gold standard of female honor. This obsession with wifely virtue is directly linked to the brutal double standard at the heart of Roman law. A callback to your father's lecture, which now makes a terrifying amount of sense. Your marriage is about producing legitimate heirs. For this to work, there can be no doubt about your wife's fidelity. Therefore, the law is merciless. If you were to be caught in an affair with the wife of another citizen, her husband would have the legal right to kill you on the spot with no consequences. He is also legally obligated by Augustan law to divorce his wife immediately. She loses her dowry, her reputation, and her place in society. She becomes an outcast. You, on the other hand, can visit the lupanar every night of the week, as discussed in the baths, and your wife has absolutely no legal recourse for it. It is not considered an affair. It is simply a man attending to his needs in a socially acceptable, non-threatening way. It is a perfectly balanced system, provided you are a man. You walk home through the crowded streets, the pieces clicking into place. The freedom you have, the different compartments of your life, the wife for heirs, the slave for convenience, the prostitute for pleasure. All of this is built upon the complete and total containment of the women of your class. Their world is small so that yours can be large. Their desires are suppressed so that yours can be managed. Their virtue must be absolute and visible at all times so that the ownership of property and the lineage of the family name can continue, unbroken and unchallenged. You arrive back at your own domus. You see your mother in the atrium, overseeing the work of the household slaves, her demeanor calm, dignified, and authoritative. She is the perfect Matrona. You look at her, and for the first time you see not just your mother, but a woman living within a complex and unforgiving system. You think of Vipsania, a girl you don't even know, whose entire life is being prepared so that she can one day enter this house, manage it perfectly, and provide you with a son. The weight of her duty, you realize, is far heavier than your own.
The day's lessons have left you feeling like a walking legal document. You understand the cold, hard mechanics of your world. A wife is for heirs, a slave is for use, a prostitute is for a fee. The system is brutally logical. But as you lie on your couch in your small room that evening, a single candle casting flickering shadows on the wall, your mind wanders to the one element your father's lecture completely ignored: love. Not the quiet, respectable affection one should feel for a wife, but amour, the messy, irrational, all-consuming passion you've read about in the poetry scrolls that you are not really supposed to own. In Rome, this kind of love is viewed not as a noble goal, but as a form of temporary insanity, like a fever or a mild case of demonic possession. It is a sickness of the soul, and it is profoundly dangerous. This danger has recently been codified into law, a major historical fact that now hangs over every private interaction in the city. The Emperor Augustus, a man who knows a thing or two about how messy family drama can lead to civil war, has recently passed a series of moral reforms, the Julian laws. His goal is to restore the ancient Roman virtues of duty, family, and piety. Adultery, which was once a private family shame to be dealt with internally, is now a public crime. A husband who discovers his wife has been unfaithful is now legally obligated to prosecute her. If he does not, he can be prosecuted himself for acting as a pimp. The punishment for a convicted woman is severe: the confiscation of half her dowry and property and exile to a remote, barren island where she will live out the rest of her days in disgrace. Her lover, if he is a citizen, suffers a similar fate. It is a bold attempt to legislate morality, which has historically been about as effective as trying to outlaw bad weather. These laws are a direct response to a culture that, at least in some circles, had grown decadent. You know this because you have a secret.
Hidden under your sleeping couch is a collection of scrolls by the poet Ovid. They are not grand epics like the Aeneid. They are poems about amour. This is an obscure but influential part of your world, the love poets. Men like Ovid, Propertius, and Catullus wrote passionate, witty, and often heartbreaking verses about their real or imagined love affairs, usually with educated, respectable, and very much married women of the upper classes. Whether the passionate affairs detailed by the love poets were based on real relationships or were largely literary conventions, a fashionable game of romantic fantasy, is impossible to know. They may be less a reflection of what Romans actually did, and more a reflection of what a bored Roman elite wished they could do. By candlelight, you unroll a scroll of Ovid's Amoris. It is thrilling, forbidden reading. He writes with breathtaking candor about his lover, a woman he calls Corinna. He writes about seeing her at the Circus Maximus, communicating with her across the crowd with secret signals of the eyebrows and fingers. He writes about bribing her slave attendant to carry secret messages. He gives detailed, almost instructional advice on how to deceive a husband, how to fake sleep, and how to write secret messages in undiluted wine on the dinner table. It is beautiful, it is romantic, and it is also a detailed how-to guide for breaking every single one of Augustus's new laws and getting yourself exiled to a miserable rock on the Black Sea. This poetry is the other side of the Roman coin. Your father's world is one of contracts, dowries, and duty. Ovid's world is one of stolen glances, secret notes, and overwhelming passion. For the first time you think of Vipsania, your future bride, as a person. A callback to your father's initial proposal, this thought is new and dangerous. Does she have a Corinna in her life? Does she read poetry? Does she dream of amour? You immediately feel a flush of shame for even thinking it. To even consider such a thing is to doubt her pudicitia, her virtue, which is the very foundation of her value to your family. Her inner life, her passions, her dreams, they are irrelevant to the contract, and you must treat them as such. You roll up the scroll and hide it away. You understand the danger now. It's not just the legal risk of exile. The true danger of amour is that it is a rebellion against the system. It puts the desires of the individual above the needs of the family and the state. It makes a mockery of strategic alliances and property transfers. A man truly sick with amour might do something crazy, like refuse a politically advantageous marriage, or even worse, fall in love with his own wife and be blind to a more beneficial match he could make if she were to conveniently die in childbirth. It is a chaotic, destabilizing force in a world built on rigid order. You lie back on your couch, the poet's words still echoing in your mind. The rules your father taught you are not just suggestions. They are the walls of a fortress, designed to protect your family, your inheritance, and your future from the most dangerous enemy of all, your own heart.
Weeks pass. The poetry scrolls remain hidden under your couch, a secret world of dangerous emotions. Your father's world of practical, strategic alliances, however, moves forward. One evening, he informs you that the negotiations with Marcus Vipsanius have been successful. The terms have been agreed upon. It is time for the sponsalia, the formal engagement ceremony. You are about to meet your future wife, Vipsania, for the first time at your own engagement party. It is an efficient, if slightly terrifying, way to multitask. You are expected to be charming, respectful, and to not let your expression betray the fact that you are mentally calculating the value of her family's extensive shipping interests. Your family arrives at the villa of Marcus Vipsanius. It is even grander than your own home, a clear sign that this marriage is a step up for your family. You were led into a large reception room filled with guests, relatives and close friends of both families, all here to act as official witnesses to the contract. You see her across the room, Vipsania. She is standing with her mother, her eyes modestly downcast. She is, as promised, young and appears healthy. That is the extent of your assessment. You are not looking for a spark of connection, you are inspecting a key component in a dynastic merger. The emotional experience of a young Roman woman during her own sponsalia, whether she felt excitement, fear, or simply a sense of dutiful resignation as her future was negotiated by the men around her, is a perspective almost entirely absent from the historical accounts we have. She looks up, and her eyes meet yours for a fraction of a second. There is a flicker of what might be curiosity, or perhaps just sheer terror. Then she looks away. The main event of the evening is not you and her getting to know each other. It is the finalization of the marriage contract. This is the major historical fact of the sponsalia. It is a business meeting disguised as a party. Your father and her father sit together with wax tablets and a scribe. They spend the next hour haggling over the final details of the dowry, the dose. They argue over the precise boundaries of a vineyard she is bringing to the marriage, the market price of the 10 household slaves included in the deal, and the interest rates on a portion of her cash inheritance, with the passion and intensity other men reserve for discussing poetry or war. It is the Roman version of a love song, and it is sung in the key of accounting. This dowry is an obscure but crucial legal point. While it will be administered by your father as the new paterfamilias of the joined household, it legally remains Vipsania's property. If you were to divorce her without cause, specifically if you could not prove she had committed a serious crime like adultery or poisoning, you would be legally required to return the entire dowry to her family. This is not a matter of sentiment. It is a powerful financial incentive to ensure that you do not simply cast her aside for a younger, wealthier match 10 years down the road. It protects her family's investment. It protects her. The final contract is read aloud and witnessed. Your father and Marcus Vipsanius clasp right hands, the dextrarum junctio, a callback to the gesture you saw in the basilica. The deal is sealed. Now, and only now, does the personal part of the ceremony begin. You are prompted to approach Vipsania. You stand before her, a complete stranger to whom you will soon be legally bound for life. You take a small, simple iron ring, the annulus pronubis, from a pouch. It is not a symbol of your undying love. It is not decorated with a diamond. It is a public acknowledgement that a legally binding financial transaction has just taken place. It is, perhaps, the least romantic piece of jewelry in human history. You take her left hand and slide the ring on it, on the third finger, from which the Romans believed a special nerve, the vena amoris, ran directly to the heart. It is the only mention of love in the entire ceremony, and it is purely anatomical. She does not speak. You murmur a few formal, polite words. The guests applaud, not for your burgeoning love story, but for the successful merger of two prosperous families. You have done your duty. You are now officially engaged. You will likely not see your fiancée again until your wedding day. You spend the rest of the party avoiding eye contact with her and making polite, boring conversation with her relatives. You have taken another step into the world of Roman adulthood, a world where your heart is a private, irrelevant matter, and your hand is a tool for signing contracts.
The months between your engagement and the wedding pass in a blur of preparations, none of which involve you. Your father and your future father-in-law handle the legal and financial arrangements. Your mother and your future mother-in-law handle the logistics of the ceremony and the feast. You and your fiancée, Vipsania, continue to not see or speak to each other. To do so before the wedding would be improper. Your only job is to exist and to show up on the correct day. Finally, that day arrives. It is your wedding day. You feel a profound sense of paperwork being finalized. The air is thick with the scent of incense, roasted pig, and legally binding obligations. You arrive at Vipsania's family home, where the ceremony will take place. You see her, and for the first time she is not just a passing figure, but the center of attention. She is dressed in the traditional white tunic of a Roman bride, cinched at the waist with a woolen belt tied in a special knot of Hercules, which only you, her husband, are allowed to untie later tonight. Her hair is elaborately braided, and over her head is the flammeum, a flame-colored veil. She looks less like a person and more like a sacred object, a symbol of purity and tradition, being prepared for a formal exchange. Her eyes meet yours for a fleeting moment, and you see the same look you saw at the engagement party, a quiet, carefully controlled terror. The ceremony begins. This is not about exchanging vows of love. It is a series of major historical rituals designed to ensure the gods approve of this union and that the legal transfer is properly witnessed. First, you and Vipsania stand before your families while a pranuba, a respected matron who has only been married once, joins your right hands. This is the dextratum iunctio, a callback to the gesture of contract you have seen so many times. It is the central act, the physical symbol of the agreement. Then comes the part that involves the gods. A priest, a haruspex, sacrifices a sheep. He carefully removes the liver and inspects the entrails. The guests wait in silence. The priest nods sagely. The liver is firm and of a good color, with no blemishes. This is excellent news. It means the gods find your family's financial merger to be divinely sanctioned. A collective sigh of relief goes through the room. After the sacrifice, the marriage contract, including the details of the dowry, is read aloud one last time and signed by the witnesses. It is now official. You are married. A great feast begins. A lavish affair meant to display your new father-in-law's wealth and generosity. Wine flows freely, and course after course of exotic food is served. You recline on a couch next to your new wife. You are expected to make polite conversation. You ask her about her skill at weaving. She tells you it is adequate. It is a thrilling start to a lifetime of intimacy. As the evening wears on and the guests become louder and more drunk, the final and strangest of the rituals of the day begins. This is an obscure but essential piece of Roman wedding theater, the mock abduction of the bride. It is a reenactment of the legendary rape of the Sabine women, a foundational myth of Rome, where the first Romans stole their wives from a neighboring tribe. You must now pretend to violently tear your new wife from her mother's embrace. You do so with as much gusto as you can muster, a piece of performative barbarism intended to symbolize a clean, legal break from her birth family. Whether the young bride experienced this ritual abduction as a terrifying ordeal or as an accepted, even exciting part of the day's traditions is an emotional reality that we can only guess at. Vipsania plays her part, crying out in pretend fear. Her mother clings to her, weeping real tears. It is awkward for everyone involved. You then lead a procession through the streets to your own father's house, which is now her new home. Crowds follow, throwing nuts and shouting bawdy jokes. When you arrive, Vipsania must anoint the doorposts with oil and wool, a symbol of her new role as mistress of the household. She is then lifted over the threshold by you and your attendants. She must not trip, as that would be a terrible omen. You are finally inside, alone with your new wife for the first time. The public performance is over. The private reality of the contract begins. You are two strangers, bound by law, property, and the silent, heavy expectation of producing an heir.
You are now a married man. The public performance of the wedding is over, and the quiet, private reality of the contract begins. Your life with Vipsania unfolds within the walls of your father's domus. It is a life of shared space and separate worlds, governed by a silent, unspoken set of rules. The wedding night itself was not an act of passion. It was an act of civic and familial duty, undertaken with the grim determination of a soldier building a siege engine. This is the great, unromantic historical fact at the heart of your union. A Roman marriage exists for one legal purpose, and one alone. Liberorum procreandorum causa, for the purpose of producing children. The future of your family name, the inheritance of its property, and your own status in society all depend on it. No pressure. You begin to learn about your new wife. You learn that she is, as promised, incredibly competent. She rises before dawn and oversees the entire household with a quiet, unnerving efficiency. The slaves are better organized, the meals are served on time, and the household accounts are meticulously kept. You have not married a person, you have acquired a highly competent domestic manager. Your interactions are polite, formal, and distant. You speak of household matters, of a cousin's upcoming visit, of the quality of the latest shipment of wine. You do not speak of feelings, of dreams, or of the secret poetry scrolls still hidden under your couch. Such topics have no place in this arrangement. How married couples in these transactional unions negotiated the emotional landscape of their daily lives, and whether a form of quiet companionship or even deep affection could grow from a foundation of duty, is a deeply human question that the Stoic Roman sources rarely explore. Now that you are a married man, your social life does not change much. In fact, it is now even more important to keep your desires separate from your home. Your domus is now a sacred space, the respectable factory for producing the next generation of citizens. Your personal recreation, as your father explained, must be sought elsewhere. You continue to visit the baths, to conduct business in the forum, and perhaps to seek out the compartmentalized pleasures that Roman society permits its male citizens. Your wife, Vipsania, never asks where you have been. It is not her place to do so. Her world is the household. Her duty is to ensure its smooth operation, and above all, to maintain her own purity. This brings you to the grimmest and most obscure aspect of her duty. The pressure to produce a child, specifically a son, is immediate and immense. A marriage that remains childless for too long is considered a failure, a sign of divine disapproval, and is one of the few justifications for a simple, no-fault divorce. Vipsania's entire value as a matrona is tied to her fertility, and this duty carries with it a terrible risk. Childbirth is the most dangerous moment in a Roman woman's life. It is her battlefield. The concept of a good death for a respectable woman was often linked to dying while bringing a legitimate heir into the world. It was seen as the ultimate fulfillment of her purpose, a final, noble sacrifice for the family and the state. You look at your young wife across the dining couch. She is quiet, poised, and completely dedicated to her role. You recall the passionate, rebellious words of the love poets, a callback to the secret world you explored before this marriage. Ovid wrote of lovers as equals, partners in a thrilling, dangerous game of passion. Your life with Vipsania is not a game. It is a serious, lifelong civic project. There is no thrilling danger, only the quiet, heavy weight of expectation. You see her overseeing the slaves as they work the loom, her hands moving with practiced skill, and you are reminded of the epitaph, "She kept the house, she made the wool." This is the life she was raised for. One evening, she informs you, with the same calm, formal tone she uses to discuss the price of grain, that she believes she is with child. You feel not a surge of personal joy, but a profound sense of relief. The first and most important clause of your marriage contract is on its way to being fulfilled. You have both done your duty. You place your hand on her stomach, a gesture that is less about intimacy and more about acknowledging a successful business venture. The future of your family is secure for now, and the silent, insane rules of Roman society continue to hold your two separate worlds together in a delicate, fragile, and perfectly constructed balance.
Months pass. Vipsania's pregnancy advances, a quiet, visible confirmation of your marriage's success. The household revolves around this future event, this pending delivery of a legitimate heir. You have settled into a routine. Your days are spent in the forum, learning the family business under your father's watchful eye. Your evenings are spent at home, in the quiet, formal company of a wife you are slowly getting to know as a competent and disciplined partner. You have followed the rules. You have kept your desires and your duties in their separate, carefully managed boxes. The system, you think, works. Then, one afternoon, you are given a brutal reminder of what happens when the walls between those boxes are breached. You hear a commotion down the street. A crowd has gathered outside the villa of a senator named Cornelius. Shouts and weeping can be heard from within. This is not a common occurrence in this respectable neighborhood. This is a scandal. A senator has discovered his wife with a charismatic but foolish young tutor. The senator is now loudly, publicly, and righteously reminding everyone within earshot of his legal rights under the Julian laws. It is the Roman equivalent of a dramatic reality television show, but with a much higher chance of someone being legally murdered. Your father pulls you aside, his face grim. "Watch," he says, "and learn what happens to those who forget their duty." This is where you learn about the violent, bloody enforcement at the heart of Roman moral law, a major historical fact that keeps the entire system in check. Under the Lex Julia, a father who catches his own daughter in the act of adultery has the legal right, the ius occidendi, to kill both her and her lover on the spot. A husband does not have the right to kill his wife, whom he is now legally obligated to divorce, but he can kill her lover under specific, humiliating circumstances, if the lover is of a low social status, like an actor, a gladiator, or a freedman, and if they are caught in the husband's own house. The law is very specific.
It emphasizes the violation of property over the violation of trust. Killing your wife's lover is less about jealousy and more about pest control. The actual frequency with which a father or husband exercised this right to kill is almost impossible to determine. Whether this was a common, brutal reality or a rare, archaic legal threat used more for intimidation than practice remains a point of grim speculation for legal historians. In this case, the lover is the son of a respectable equestrian family. The senator cannot legally kill him, but he can ruin him, and he will. The young man is dragged from the house, his toga torn, his face bruised. He will be prosecuted under the adultery laws. He will be exiled. His family will be disgraced. The wife, the senator's own, will face the same fate. Her life as a respectable matrona is over. She will be stripped of her status, sent to a barren island, and forbidden from ever remarrying. She has failed in her one essential duty, to be a pure vessel for her husband's lineage. As you watch this public humiliation unfold, you overhear two women in the crowd whispering. They are not talking about the law, but about magic. This is the obscure, superstitious underbelly of Roman society. They whispered that the senator's wife was unhappy and that she had paid a sorceress for a defixio, a curse tablet, to make the young tutor fall in love with her. They whisper of love potions, of spells woven from hair and nail clippings. When reason and law failed to deliver what the heart desires, people turn to darker, more desperate arts. The women at the market whisper about another woman who used a love potion to win a man's affection. The potion apparently worked, but had the unfortunate side effect of also making him lose all his hair and develop a suspicious twitch. It seems even Roman magic comes with fine print. You look away from the unfolding scandal, your stomach churning. The love poetry of Ovid, a callback to your secret readings, now seems a childish and incredibly dangerous fantasy. The poet's witty tales of outsmarting husbands do not mention this part: the public disgrace, the financial ruin, the exile, the sheer violent destruction of two families. You see now that the rules are not just social conventions, they are iron walls with spikes on top. You return home. The quiet order of your own domus feels different now. It feels like a sanctuary, a fragile bubble of peace that you, as the future head of this household, are now responsible for protecting. You see Vipsania, her hand resting on her swollen belly. She is the vessel of your family's future, and you realize with a chilling clarity that your duty is not just to be her husband, it is to be her guardian. You must protect her and your future children from the chaos of a world where a single foolish act of passion can lead to utter ruin. Your understanding of marriage has shifted again. It is not a business contract, it is a fortress, and you are the man on the wall.
Time passes. The seasons turn. Vipsania's pregnancy, once a source of quiet anxiety, becomes the central, hopeful focus of the household. And then, one evening, after a long and difficult labor, a child is born, a son. The relief in the domus is a palpable thing, a collective, unspoken exhalation. Your wife has performed her sacred duty. Now, it is time for you to perform yours. This leads to one of the most profound and terrifyingly simple rituals in Roman life, an obscure but absolute tradition known as tollere liberum, the lifting of the child. The newborn infant, washed and wrapped in clean linen, is not placed in your arms. It is placed on the floor at your feet. All eyes are on you, your father, the paterfamilias, your mother, Vipsania, exhausted but watching intently from her couch, the household slaves. This is the moment of legal and social recognition. If you believe the child to be your legitimate heir, you stoop down, lift him from the ground, and hold him up. This single, silent gesture declares him as your own, a true member of the family who will inherit your name and property. If you were to turn away, if you were to leave the child on the floor, it would be a public declaration that you reject him. That child would then be exposed, left outside the house to die of exposure or to be picked up by a slave trader. It is a moment of absolute, quiet power, life or death, legitimacy or oblivion, decided by the simple act of bending your knees. You look down at the small, wrinkled infant. You feel a surge of profound relief and a sense of continued, heavy obligation. This is the Roman version of paternal love, a feeling deeply intertwined with property law and dynastic responsibility. You bend down and lift your son. A quiet approval murmurs through the room. The cycle is complete. The contract is fulfilled. You have an heir. You have now fully entered the world of the Roman man. You look at Vipsania, a callback to the terrified girl you met at your engagement party. She is no longer a stranger, but your partner in this great dynastic project. There may not be the fiery amour of the poets you once read in secret, but there is something else. A deep, quiet respect. A partnership forged in shared duty. She is the mother of your son, the keeper of your household, the guardian of your family's honor. And you are her protector, the public face of the fortress you have built together. The major historical fact that has driven every rule you have learned, every contract you have witnessed, is now a living, breathing reality in your arms. The continuation of the family line. The entire, complex, and often insane structure of Roman social rules. The control over women, the strict adultery laws, the transactional nature of marriage, the compartmentalization of desire, it all serves this one single purpose: to ensure that this boy, your son, is without question your legitimate heir. He is the vessel for the family's name, its property, and its sacred ancestral rights, the Sacra Familia. Your whole life has been a preparation for this moment, for your role as a link in this unbreakable chain. One day you know you will sit this boy down in this very atrium and give him the same lecture your father gave you. You will explain the difference between a wife and a slave, the importance of a good dowry, and the dangers of poetry. The cycle is as predictable and as solid as a Roman road. Later that night, you stand in the quiet atrium. The household is asleep. A single oil lamp casts a soft, warm glow on the marble floor. The moon is visible through the opening in the roof, a perfect silver disk in the dark sky. You look at the sleeping quarters where your wife and your newborn son are resting. A profound sense of order settles over you. You are no longer the restless, curious boy questioning the rules. You understand them now. They are not arbitrary. They are the foundations that hold your entire world together, the walls that keep out the chaos of passion and protect the sanctity of the family, the state, and the slow, steady march of Roman legacy. You have found your place. You are not a hero from a grand epic. You are a Roman husband, a father, a future paterfamilias. You are a guardian of the rules, and in the deep, silent peace of the Roman night, you feel a quiet, stoic contentment. Your story has just begun, and you know, with absolute certainty, exactly how it will be written.